I'm Tony Wood from CEO Collaborative Forum, and let's hear CEOs reflect on sustainability. Today's guest is Deep. Hi, Deep.
Hi, Tony.
Deep has been working in the ESG space for the past several years and has served as strategic advisor to some of the senior management teams of the world's largest top companies across industries such as fashion, consumer products, beverages, and packaging. His work focuses on embedding sustainability principles into the DNA of companies so they're not just talking about sustainability, but in fact living it. My goodness, Deep. So how that's some title, that's some intro. Thank you for that.
Thanks for having me on the podcast here, Tony.
Cool, excellent. So we'll get straight into some of the questions. So one of the challenges is, what does it actually mean for a company to be sustainable?
Yeah, so that's great. It's a multidimensional answer, right? So sustainability, I think the first thing is to realize that it's not a destination, but in fact a journey. And
Right.
once you get that, and once you sort of wrap your head around that, then it becomes much easier to understand the rest of it. So essentially, sustainability is, it's been defined, across the board at the UN and other governing agencies, which basically say that sustainability is about trying to do what you can today without compromising the needs of the generation of tomorrow, right? And
Interesting.
so it's really about it's about business practices, it's about governing practices, it's about even practices that one has personally, in terms of what you consume, how you consume it, how long you consume it for. All of it considers all of those elements when you talk about sustainability. Now, to be very clear, the context in which I'm working on it most these days is from the business environment and the business ecosystem unit of analysis, as we call it. So, not really working on the personal side, not really working on the governmental
Okay.
side or the institutional side. It's really more about organizations and what they can do to be more sustainable and to do a better job at running their businesses in alignment with the principles of sustainability.
Goodness. And how do you do that? Is it an on-site thing? Is it remote? Is it teamwork? How do you, because that's a big old task, isn't it?
It is, right? And so if you think about it, we actually split it up into four major fronts, if you will.
Okay.
One is, the front around focus. So actually reflecting on your own business and saying, okay, who are my stakeholders? Who is it that's contributing to the company? Who matters to the company, and who does the company matter to? And it, of course, could be employees, could be, could be clients, could be the community that you're in, or the area, the town that your factory is based in, or what have you. And understanding who those are, understanding what is material to you, what is important for your business. Is it, in which ways are you impacting the climate? In which way you are impacting society? And in which way is society and the environment impacting you? So it's a double materiality, as we call it in industry jargon. And so we need to look at that. And it's a bit of a reflective exercise to actually take stock of where you are and what you're doing and who you're doing it to and with, and who matters, and how do they matter, right? So to understand those key parameters. Then the second part that we flow into is sort of more of the foundational element, to say, okay, now that I understand who matters to me, how they matter to me, what do I impact, how does the world impact me in some ways, then I can really start thinking about, okay, how is my business configured? Do I have
Okay.
a purpose for my company, right? We had a wonderful example of a company that it was a technology firm, and their purpose was to make data more profitable. But when we
Okay.
dug into it, what does profit really mean? And of course, there's the you know there's you have the obvious definition on the monetary side, but the more interesting one was that actually what they really believed, which was the profitability. They meant that it enlightens the customer of how to use their data, right? And so the profit was more of an intellectual prowess rather than a monetary gain. And so by tweaking that a little bit and say, you know what, maybe you mean we make data more impactful, could be a better way to state your purpose, right? Because you're impacting all sorts of things, right? And so it's reflecting on purpose. It's about understanding your strategy, defining it in some more depth, and configuring your business model around that. So those are the first two steps, and then of course you move into what we call, the facts. And the facts are about data, about reporting, about making sure you're compliant with whatever regulatory standards, right? And the last part is around function. And the functional domain is to say, okay, reports are nice, but the reports are not just for the sake of reports. They're in fact to be reused within the company once you see that data and once you see those manifestations of your activities, to actually incorporate them back into your business and say, okay, what do I do better now, right?
So the how in your experience have you helped companies manage that change? Because it's a transformation. It is a transformation project because they're changing the way they work. They've still got to keep the same standards, but they're doing something very slightly different. How do you support a company through that change? Because that's always quite tricky.
It is, and honestly, the answer to this one is no different than any vanilla transformation initiative,
Oh,
because
cool.
it's not about sustainability, it's about the transformation.
Right.
Sustainability is the context, it's the reason why you're transforming, but the roadblocks and the road bumps that you hit during transformation remain the same. So it's about changing people's mindset, it's about changing the culture, it's about having a leadership that owns this, it's about the leadership that is invested in it. You have executive sponsorship, from top to down. You have people who are in charge of it, who know what they're doing, right? So this is the part that contains a little bit more about the sustainability initiatives and have the subject matter expertise in that. But really, that's more from the design aspect and a little bit in the execution as well.
Okay.
But it's just like a regular transformation. So if you're familiar with a regular
Okay.
transformation, you can do an ESG transformation with a couple of the right experts, that are embedded into this as part of the knowledge profile of the transformation.
Oh, that's really interesting. So if you've already done a digital transformation, you can use the same team, swap out a couple of subject matter experts, and then you're there.
Yes, you are, and that's it. So
Right. Okay.
sustainability is not magical. It's just another subject matter. It's another context in which you're doing transformation.
Okay. And are there any what incentivizes a company to become more sustainable? I mean, why would they do it? Apart from regulation, etc.? Of course, they want to do that, but I think it's good just to spell it out. Is it generic or is it something different for each company?
So what we think about is that there's a burning platform for companies to actually deliver on their ESG ambitions, and it's a fivefold situation. The
Okay.
first, of course, they're receiving pressure from the consumers. Consumers demand greater transparency around provenance. Where are the tomatoes in my ketchup coming from? Where's the wool in my sweater coming from? So they're demanding more transparency about provenance, and they want to. And in fact, on the flip side of that, they're actually willing to pay a little more for this as well, which is what we
Interesting.
refer to as the premium of sustainability, right? The second, of course, is the employees. Employees are more engaged, they're more vocal. There are different generations of employees that are driving companies towards better accountability in terms of equality, equity, sustainability, diversity, a lot of these initiatives. So that's coming from there. And then, of course, you have the regulators. So these are the non-negotiables. Basically, they're rolling out new frameworks across Europe. There's a more of a focus around governance, transparency, and reporting. Then, of course, you have the financial markets, which are using ESG metrics to guide their decision making around impact and risk and into all of those things. And that's, you already see examples from Danske Bank in up in Denmark. You have KBC in Belgium, and you have other banks that are adopting these principles. And then the last one is really the activist shareholders who are becoming more and more of a prominent voice, as you saw in the last few annual general meetings at I believe it was at Shell and ExxonMobil. They had some activist shareholders that are really causing some disruption toward trying to get more sustainability into the boardroom. Really, so these are really the five forces that are incentivizing or driving, I should say, CEOs to make these changes.
I thought it was larger companies teaching smaller companies, but it's smaller companies through that experiential, almost organic, holistic approach teaching larger companies. How would you ripple that up?
So the rippling up, this there's a frontier between small companies and large companies, which is
Right.
difficult to bridge. And I think that's going to be a challenge. Honestly, I don't have the solution for that yet,
Come
Tony,
on, Deep. Come
but
on.
I'm working on it. I can promise you that, right? And so as we go through this, I mean, there's a lot of things in this whole area, Tony, which are still organic.
Got it.
There's not a whole lot of subject matter that's been published in this space yet. We're starting to get there, but it's still going to
Love
be
that.
a few years before there's some sort of a critical mass of knowledge to do a lot of these things. So we're still working on that. At least me personally, I haven't found the right way to attack this yet.
Cool. So what final piece of advice would you give a CEO for her journey, or the leader in sustainability? What how would you, a pithy bit of advice from Deep?
So one of the things I would say is that really there's a mindset issue here. Most CEOs are approaching the notion of sustainability and ESG really as a matter of compliance, right?
Got
It's
it.
a fear based mindset, and I think where we want to go is for especially for SMEs is to really consider sustainability as a reason to have an opportunity based mindset. So you need to do a bit of a pivot on your mindset from fear to opportunity, because this can be a wonderful example, a wonderful way in which you can actually you can make a change in your business model. You can pivot your strategy. You can change what it is to be a business through this journey of sustainability. And a few companies have actually done that by for example, I have a tea company in the US that I was talking with, and with their chief purpose officer, she mentioned how by embracing sustainability sort of really inside out, they were able to improve lives of the tea farmers in remote geographies like India, in out in South Africa, and other places. And through that, they created new ways of working with them. In fact, they were able to also create adjacent business streams and revenue
Oh,
streams through embracing those opportunities, right? So it's not just tea, but they started getting into the spice market as well, which is also very similar in terms of the people you're working with. And so those, so to change from a fear-based mindset to an opportunity-based mindset and embrace it that way, because the benefits and the results are quite tremendous. One, employing sustainability initiatives can reduce your operating costs. It can increase your shareholder returns. It can create stronger customer loyalty, and it can create higher employee engagement. And this is not just me talking. These are reports from people like McKinsey and people like Deloitte, and the larger, and of course people like MSCI, who are embedded in this field. So these are from the people who are talking about this full time, have seen all these changes. So it's really something that CEOs need to embrace.
goodness, Deep. It sounds like you're on an incredible journey. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're crazy busy. It sounds like this is progressing quite quickly for you. I'd love to have you back in the future, where if there's any kind of distinctions, discoveries, or rediscoveries you've made, that you could share with our audience. We'd love to do that. Is that
Wonderful.
is that
Thank
possible?
you very much, Tony. I would love to do that. In fact, I would love to share some examples of some real case studies that we've done in a
Awesome.
few months, and happy to share that with the community.
Thank you very much, Deep, and thank you everybody for listening. This is CEO Reflects.